Evening, fellow students. My name is V Grimsey, and I'm a Minister of Word candidate here in Queensland, and I'm also a student of Trinity College, Queensland, and happen to be enrolled in the same subject as you in Church History B. Tonight, my oral presentation is based on the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. He was actually born Charles I of Spain back in 1500, and he was the oldest son to Philip of Burgundy and Joanna of Castile. But he was fortunate because he happened to be also the heir of the Habsburg monarchy, which is part of Austria. He was also the heir of the Burgundian Netherlands, which is the top part of here. And he was also the heir of Castile and Aragon, which were two kingdoms within Spain. When the Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian I died in 1519, Pope Leo X had to appoint a successor. And there's a few options. So there was King Henry VIII, and there was also Frederick the Wise of Saxony, who were viable options to replace the Holy Roman Emperor title. But however, there was two powerful people, which happened to be Charles I of Spain, but also Francis I of France. And Charles was actually appointed the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V in 1915. Well, it wasn't an easy decision, because one of the things going against Charles V was the concern of his expansion of the empire. And as we can see from this map, he already had control of Spain, Netherlands, Austria, and then also the southern parts of Italy. But then there was also the fear of France and Germany coming together. So that's why Francis I of France was not appointed. But another good thing going for Charles I of Spain, now Charles V, was that his empire was also extending over into the Americas with the Spanish explorers over in that period. And so with the expansion into America also was the opportunity of wealth that could come in from the Roman Catholic Church. But probably one of the key things for Charles V was he was a strict Orthodox man who would not tolerate any heresy throughout his lands. And I think this was an important point at that particular time, because there was a few people at the time who were actually unhappy about the whole Roman Catholic Church, especially in the last 19 years, from 1500 to 1519. A couple of them was first Erasmus of Rotterdam, who was also known as the Prince of Humanus. So back in 1500, Erasmus wrote the book called The Handbook of the Christian Soldier. And within that handbook, Erasmus was really questioning the integrity of the Catholic Church. And he really insisted on the righteousness, and he actually attacked the scandalous friars that were operating at that particular time. One example he wrote was in relation to communion, and he attacked the friars, saying, what good if sprinkled outwardly with holy water if one is still filthy within? In 1505, there was also a young man who entered the monastery, and he also struggled for justification of sin before his God. And at the time, through the Catholic Church, it was all about good works, and the sacrament of the penance was supposed to suffice for this young friar's need to be justified before God. But he could not find this justification in God. This man was Martin Luther. In 1517, Luther wrote the 95 Theses in Latin and German, and he posted it on the door. And then with it, he addressed the doctrines of justification. He also addressed the sacrament of penance, and also he also questioned the sale of indulgences, which was also happened to be authorised by Leo X. In this year, Emperor Maximilian was enraged by Luther's thoughts and doctrines, and he was instructed Pope Leo X to resolve this issue. And at that time, so Leo X had the Augustan order, which was appointed to actually resolve the situation. But unfortunately, the people at the time there actually favoured Luther's teachings, and so it was never resolved. So it wasn't until now 1521 that the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V called the Diet of Worms. Now the Diet of Worms it's not a weight loss program, which is based on the consumption of wriggly soil dwellers, although Charles V may have felt like that afterwards. No, but the diet was actually just generally an assembly of the Holy Roman Empire. And Worms was actually a town situated in Germany, and today we know it's actually situated 110 kilometres sort of north-northwest of Stuttgart. So, in the Diet of Worms, Luther was summoned to respond to the charges of heresy. And in that diet, Emperor Charles V had no intention of entering into any doctrinal debate with Luther. Emperor Charles V, all he did was he only offered Luther the offer to recant. That was to retract his teachings and renounce the Catholic doctrine. Unfortunately for Charles V, he could not enforce the decree against Luther due to the overwhelming support of Luther by the German princes in the various territories of the area. So, but after that, during the period 1521 to 1529, Charles was actually then preoccupied on the military advance of France coming down to Italy, but then also the Ottoman Empire, which was coming over from the west. But he also faced other new opposition as well. So during this period, this is where the German princes, they all got together and formed the Schmalkaldic League, which was actually supposed to be against the Catholic Church and actually was considered to be a military force against the Catholic Church. So they were being formed. But at the same time, the papacy in Rome actually still questioned Charles V on why he called the Diet of Worms in the first place, especially when in 1521 the papacy excommunicated Luther through the papal bull called the Decet Romanium Pontificum. But after that, Charles V still tried to have consultation. He was trying to resolve this, this rising of the Protestants. And so there was also the Diet of Nuremberg. There's also the Diet of Speyer. And then there was also the Diet of Augsburg arose, which was to seek the agreement of Catholic and Protestants within the empire. All this during time to the 30s and 1530s and 1540s, Charles V was continually seeking a council rather than a diet to seek resolutions of the church and its doctrines. And the key thing that Charles V will be remembered for was he was striving for restoring religious peace in the empire. During the Council of Trent, it was in 1548, there was the Augsburg Confession. And even in this confession, there was a small concession for the Protestant church in relation to marriages, and then also concession in relation to them doing communion. But the significant piece was in 1555, which was the Peace of Augsburg, where the Catholic and the Lutheran territories had the opportunity to now choose which religion they wanted to have within their particular territories. But whilst being a devout Catholic, Charles V was remembered for seeking religious peace through consultation than the military force, which he was very capable of with the advancements of through France, and then also the work he did against the Ottoman force. Charles V will also be remembered for his human rights in relation to the indigenous Americans. Charles V issued a new series of laws. They were actually called the Laws of the Indies, which considered the actually human rights of the American Indians. And following the advice from one missionary, Las Casas, the new laws actually allowed tributes and wages to be paid to the Indian workers, or rather than the Indian workers or the slaves working for free. And also the land was no longer to be transferred from family generation to generation to generation, but the land was returned back to Crown land. What can we remember from Charles V and in relation to our mission for church today? I think the key thing is that during Charles V's lifetime, his beloved Catholic religion was challenged by social changes in social lifestyle, which was developing right across the empire. But there's also challenges in relation to doctrine. So, for example, before the doctrine of justification, where it was actually being challenged by scriptural interpretation. But whilst Charles V was sticking to his Roman Catholic tradition, he sought resolution through consultation rather than military might. And I think this is a great example for our Catholic and Protestant churches today. We today still face challenges that affect our churches. So whether it's Catholic or Protestant church, we today face challenges in relation to the LGBTQ marriages. We're also challenged by the laws in relation to assisted dying. And we're also challenged today about laws in relation to abortion. But there's also we're going to face changes also in the future. What about down the future how do we consider what does humanity look like when we start looking at the advancement of artificial intelligence? What if down the future, if we do discover new life forms on other interstellar bodies, how is that going to challenge our definition of humanity, and how is that going to challenge our creation narrative at the start of our scriptures? I think what's important is to allow the Spirit to define the new doctrines when we're considering Scripture, our traditions, our experiences and reasons. And for me, this is one of the first years I was actually involved within our Uniting Church in Queensland, and was going to a synod meeting, and how we have the opportunity of consultation where we talk about each other, allow the Spirit to talk to us in relation to what is God's mission for our church in Queensland. Here's a photo of our Uniting Church in Australia, our assembly, which is our national body, when we come together nationally to discuss the challenges that we face our Uniting Church here within Australia. I think once again the important part is all about the consultation. What we can learn from Emperor V is that we have consultation in respect and peacefully, rather than trying to sort things out through fight and through military force and through anger. This is my discussion on Charles V, so I hope you get something from this presentation, and all the best for your presentations as well. See you later.